Hello, and welcome to a Wized live stream. Today we are with the first place winner, number one of the Wized Memberstack SaaS building application campaign. We have William Brooks here, the creator of ABWize. And we have Julian Galluzzo from Memberstack. We're going to be talking about ABWize today. We're going to be meeting William. We're going to be talking about really how this happened, how we built this. If you were with the last two streams, we'll learn a little bit about William and hopefully start getting William some users over with ABWize. So Julian, first I'll start with you. How you doing?
Well, as always, I am excited, not only about the product, which was the decisive winner of the competition, but also just about William's story because, getting started in this competition, obviously you have a massive, massive advantage if you have a ton of experience, not only with Wized and Memberstack, but also just with Webflow to begin with. And out of our competitors, William was on the lower end when it comes to experience with any of these tools, and yet somehow came out the decisive winner. So I'm really excited because everything we're talking about here, as in the past two streams, this is not only for us to share it with all of you, but also we don't know any of this information. So I'm excited to hear more about how building went. I'm excited to hear more about ABWize and the future of it. So as always, thank you, Joe. And as always, I'm excited.
Me too. Me too. William, how's it going? Thank you
Doing
for coming on the stream today. How are you?
doing well, thank you. Yeah, excited to share the journey and the crazy 2 weeks that happened, and yeah, hopefully inspire some other people to be able to build great products.
Yeah, I think certainly inspiring. You just learned you started using Webflow a year and a half ago. Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean that's true, but I do have a bit of a background in understanding. I must have used what was it, Microsoft Front Page or something like that many years ago.
Okay.
So I
Yep.
wasn't completely new to web development. So but certainly hadn't used Webflow. I think for a year and a half ago, the company I work for needed a website, and one of the developers offered to do it, and I knew that that was going to take him maybe 6 months or a year. And I'd heard of Webflow, and I just started playing around with it and got them a website in maybe 2 or 3 weeks.
Awesome. Great. I'm excited to learn about the whole story here. We'll learn about your beginning. We'll learn about going into ABWize. But before we do that, let's say hello to the audience. If you are watching live, where are you from? Say hello. Let's get this chat moving. And of course, as always, if you have any questions for William or Julian or me throughout this entire stream, just ask in the chat. We'll try to address it. So let's get into ABWize. Julian, let's jump into the core content here.
Yes.
ABWize, what is it? How can we get William some interested people here?
Yes. So, first things first, and I want to take a step back and go into the idea, the conception of it. But before we do any of that, I would love to just see a demo of ABWize along with hearing more about what it is and what it does. So, William, the floor is yours. Let's hear it. Let's see it.
Yeah, sure. I think seeing a demo will be helpful. So I'll share my screen and we'll show you kind of what it is. So front page is kind of standard landing page, tells you about it, what it does. So you can read through that if you go to abwize.com, but we'll just try it out and see. Hopefully it works. So all you have to do to get started. So the one thing that I thought about a lot when building a product, I knew I wanted to customer to see the value in it without too much friction. So I didn't want them to have to sign up and enter names and email because I knew that would just be less people getting to use it and seeing the value of it. So all you need is your URL, ideally of your own website, because that's where you would use this. So what it's doing in the background is going to grab a screenshot, and actually I set up a service to go and read the website. So it's got reading the content on the page and kind of understanding the page. So screenshot, hopefully that's the right I've seen this a million times.
Yeah.
So it's definitely the right Memberstack. I think I know your copy by heart now, having demoed it so many times. It is good copy, designing Webflow scale to millions. So what it's done is I've got sent all of different parts of the website, like the title, description, to ChatGPT, and had it return different properties of the website that I think would be useful in creating different copy. So we've got the target persona. And Julian, you're the expert in Memberstack. Does that sound right? Webflow designers and creators. It's pretty spot on a lot of these
That
things.
is exactly correct.
So, and you can turn off and on different things. So you could, if you don't want it to take that into account when generating the copy. So maybe we'll leave off, it doesn't really matter, but let's say features, benefits we'll leave on. And we want the headline maybe to understand the common user objections about hidden fees or difficulty integrating. And the brand voice is pretty important. We might leave that as is, or we could change it to right funny or whatever. So when we press optimize the content, so now it knows the content of the website. It knows the headings that are there. And it's got this extra information that it's generated, but you can edit. And so it's going to send all of this, so a big blob of text from your website, but in the right context, as well as that information to ChatGPT to go and find the most appropriate headlines. Oh, wow. Best demo ever. That was quick. So it knows that's one of the headings, designing Webflow, as you can see, and it's suggested an alternative copy for that heading. So based on that brand voice and benefits we gave it, and here it said, like, this is actually a pretty good one for you, Julian. Instead of used by, what about trusted by? So we can turn them all off and decide, let's put on these three because we think they're going to be useful. And then it's going to set up a preview of the A/B test. So the next screen here, it's loading, but it's going to load you an example of what it would look like if you were to run this A/B test. Or even if you're not going to run the A/B test, you could just implement this manually and not test it. So you can see this is the variant, Unleash Your Creativity with Webflow. And this is the original, Design in Webflow. And you can see memberships, authentication, payments for teams. This one says seamless membership management with Webflow and Stripe. So you can see that preview straight away showing. And then if you like what you see, you just click this button, copy that code into your Webflow website or any website. So it'll work with not just Webflow, but any site because it's just front-end JavaScript. Paste that in, and then that'll start to run the tests for you. So the way it works is this script will decide based on each user which to show them the control or the variant and split them 50-50. And then you will also, then it'll actually do this. So the same way this screenshot works, it's change the text, that'll happen on your website live. And then if you add this bit of code, which is kind of necessary to see, you're trying to get an outcome on your website. So a conversion. So you want to make sure that you are tracking when someone converts. And the whole idea of A/B testing is to see which performs better. And the only way to see something performing better is to measure the outcome. So you can also copy the URL if you're not ready to launch it. So you'll be able to copy this and share it. So anyone who's on the stream, if you go to ABWize.com, you can try this right now. You don't even have to launch a test. But please go in, type in your own website or any website. It works best with something with like a lot of hero copy up top because it's mainly focusing on the heroes section. And then you press copy this URL, and if you share it in the chat, we'll be able to see kind of the demos that you have made and see the differences. So that'll be fun to see. People try it out. It's free. It's frictionless. It's very quick to do, as you've just seen. But once you're ready, you just press this launch test button. You'll sign in. Let me see if I can make up a new one. And then once I've signed in, we're ready to launch. So you can click verify. That'll check the scripts correctly put on your page. You click preview on your site. That will launch your site with a URL parameter to preview the actual change so you can see it looks as you want it to. So we never want to launch anything on our site without checking that it works. And then launch A/B test will actually set the configuration on the server on the back end to live. So it'll start running. And then once that starts running, I'll see if this is going to load. this is a real live example. So this is my current website, ABWize. Some of you probably didn't realize, but some of you are seeing effortlessly improve your website performance. Others are seeing boost your website performance with a slightly different subheadline. So this is happening right now on ABWize, and this is the current stats. So of page views, and I'm guessing if we refresh this to 326, 240, there's people on the site now, 329, 241. So this is the live kind of page views. These stats could be improved a little bit, but you can get an idea of which is performing better, although this sample size is way too small to actually glean any useful data. And the next thing that I'd like to build into it, maybe we'll talk about later, but analyzing this and helping you understand what does this mean and how to make a decision based on this.
That is awesome. That I don't even know what to say. We are currently 10 minutes into the stream. I fully understand exactly what it is. I understand why I would want it, how it works, and that demo went beautifully. Typically, whenever you're live demoing your product, it's going to break because, you know, that's what the world wants. But that just went awesome. I am just as amazed, if not more amazed, than I was when I originally tested it. And on that point as well, what initially made you come up with the idea for ABWize?
Well, now I get to do my pirate joke. But I've been using at my current job, trying to understand how to get people to convert more and test. And the options out there since Google Optimize went away, which I only got to use for a little bit before it was sunset last year, are not great. They're not very easy to use. There's nothing as quick as what I've built. It doesn't have that AI component to quickly generate headlines. Some of them do kind of further in, and it's hard to find. They're really expensive. So A/B testing is hard, and it shouldn't cost an arm and a leg. So that's kind of the two key things. We wanted something easier and cheaper. Well, I did. So that's kind of where the idea came from. A problem I had at work trying to set up an A/B test and realizing that I was just piecing together me typing in ChatGPT and understanding like the brand voice and things like that, when kind of I knew that there was a solution potentially to connect it all together and make it a bit easier and quicker to use.
That I would say you did your job, because I, especially before in my career, did a lot of A/B testing, and I've also tried a lot of some of the newer tools, and ABWize is simply unrivaled when it comes to speed. There is no way. I mean, we just saw here with William's explanations, he was able to get an A/B test set up and up and running in like 10 minutes. So, absolutely nothing beats that. And as well, something that I want to ask you about, we talked about your Webflow experience, but when you jumped into this, what was your experience with Memberstack and with Wized? And for anyone watching this, keep this in mind when you're thinking about, I guess, for you getting started, because whatever experience William has, it may be the same as what you had. And he came in here and won this competition. So, with that being said, William, how much Wized and Memberstack experience did you have?
I'd say most people watching have more experience in Memberstack, definitely, and potentially in Wiz than I had when I started. I'd logged into Memberstack once. That was the sum total of my experience with Memberstack. And Wiz, I'd done a little bit more. I'd watched a bunch of brilliant kind of tutorials. I think it was Alex's tutorials. Have been really helpful. So I kind of had an interest in, I knew eventually I would build something. And I knew this was a tool that, now that I just discovered Webflow, this would be a tool that could help piece together the back end and the logic to build something interesting. But I never actually got to the point of deploying anything. I just played around with Wiz, maybe, a few hours.
That is crazy to have just played around with it a few hours, had done absolutely nothing before with Memberstack, and in 2 weeks come out with this insane product. That is just awesome. And along with that, with the idea, I remember seeing your application and I immediately internally mentioned it to a few people, thinking this is such a good idea. And there's absolutely no way this guy is going to complete it in 2 weeks. like without knowing anything about you. Even if, let's say, BMG Studio, who we all know are absolutely amazing with Wiz, if they sent that idea through, I would have said, there's no way they're going to do it in 2 weeks. Let alone you, who are, this is your first actual project, anything that you've built using either one of these tools, which is just insane. And now something I want to get into, and you can just absolutely, the floor is yours, take with this one. Once the competition got started, from anything that you can remember, just kind of walk me through those 2 weeks. And first things first, I would love to hear, and I think everyone else as well would love to hear, you didn't only have to deal with trying to learn and to build this in 2 weeks. You also had something else going on in your life that, for anyone who's experienced it, knows that would make it a lot harder. So, what was that thing?
Well, before I tell everyone that thing, just to be clear, I did have kind of a technical background. Once upon a time, many, many years ago, I studied computer science. So it's not as if someone's going to jump in and think they can do what I did in 2 weeks. I had kind of a background. I work in technical roles and understand solutions. So there's more to it than just never used Wiz. If you don't understand APIs and logic and polling and like I prompt engineering with ChatGPT. Like I just happen to have all these different puzzle pieces except Wiz and Memberstack to be able to build this. So yeah, I don't want people to get too carried away and think with zero knowledge. Like definitely go and watch tutorials, try it out, build things first before jumping in. But yeah, in terms of the other thing I had to deal with, you kind of schedule this competition at the best and the worst time. So the competition started, and I had a 1-week-old second child was born. So I was sitting in the hospital, going through my brain how I would build a tool like this. And then for the next kind of 2 weeks of this competition, had very little sleep. Was up in the middle of the night every night. Went to bed thinking about serverless functions and falling asleep and yeah, it was a crazy, not the most exciting way to get to bed, but it was exciting 2 weeks to try and build something and have a 2-week-old. Yeah, it was a little crazy, and a 3.5-year-old as well.
Yeah, that is ridiculous. Obviously, first things first, congratulations. And I just can absolutely not imagine doing that. It's hard enough to keep up with your like day-to-day tasks as soon as a new kid is born, let alone what you've done. And yeah, I mean, what you're saying is definitely true. Any knowledge that you have from before anywhere else in your life, in your career, does make a massive difference. That being said, it doesn't matter, what it is. You're still new to these things, and you
Yeah.
still manage to do this, which is just insane. So here you are starting the competition with a 1 week old without ever having launched anything with Memberstack and Wiz. How did you start?
So how did I start? So I knew if I could get some momentum and do the parts that I did know, that would kind of help things and get me understanding what kind of scope I really needed to do in 2 weeks or could do, and could achieve. Of course, I thought I could do a lot more than I did, but so I started kind of reverse engineering some products out there to understand how their JavaScript work, which is kind of a whole separate piece to this competition that I kind of added on in complexity. So getting those kind of pieces, the periphery kind of pieces working, and then I'm not a designer, and like I didn't think I would win this competition because some of those designs and people that entered had like really polished. Um, but then listening to them talk, they had designers work with them, or they were with agencies, or they have experience. So I knew at the start that I wasn't going to build something pretty and like super like beautiful, but I knew that I had to use tools like Reloom library and site builder. So the site that I entered was all AI generated in terms of the content on the front and getting a landing page, because I knew that the competition was out building an app that kind of was functional and useful. So I left kind of a lot of that to like the Reloom library and components, and I didn't design anything. Like I didn't open Figma. I barely know how to use Figma. So I essentially designed it, the static pages in Webflow by using different components and And I knew the rough flow that I wanted to build, like the steps for the kind of frictionless onboarding where they enter the URL and then it ordered to the website. So I actually built, just in using Reloom components, threw in kind of the static pages of each step, and then afterwards built the kind of serverless functions that would return the right logic. And even before that, just had some dummy kind of content coming back to make it look like how I wanted to at the end without it actually doing anything. So it was just a dumb website, so to speak, but it had the right steps. And so I could get an idea, does that process make sense? And then I had the complicated, kind of more complicated and less sleep parts of it where I was trying to have ChatGPT build me the actual function to do the logic. Yeah.
That is excellent. And were there any points throughout where you were kind of thinking, I'm not going to be able to finish this in 2 weeks?
Yeah, the whole time. Maybe I will share my screen and just give people an idea of how not to do things for a 2-week competition. Like, don't use AWS and pick something simpler than I never used AWS either, sorry, to add to the complexity. Like, I'd use kind of S3 for storing files, but I never built a Lambda function. I knew what they were, but I ended up having to build multiple functions and then understand permissions and API, setting up API gateways to be able to connect to these things. So choose something simpler where this is kind of all included for you, essentially, with like a Xano or a Superbase, which I didn't have a lot of experience with. So I went the hard route, but I would have had to learn either way. And there's no way I could have done this without, like, even with ChatGPT 4, I couldn't have done this. It was ChatGPT 4.0 had just been released, and I was able to, like, I spent a lot of time on that, and it was just me copying and pasting half asleep my Lambda functions and asking for edits and things like that, and losing bits along the way with the context window and then having to redo it and banging my head against the table. But yeah, just doing that over and over, I was able to get these different steps. So I knew, like, this was the part that I built kind of quickly, just with Webflow and Reloom. Then it got a little bit complicated and understanding how to put together a database to store these. And then kind of this part I reverse engineered and used previous knowledge for a front-end JavaScript and sending stats. Yeah, just a lot more complexity, and I don't recommend anyone doing this level of complexity. But it is possible. It's definitely possible because I did it.
You did it.
Question.
Exactly.
If this was not a timed competition, let's say you were just building this application as a solo creator, would you build it the way that you built it? Or would you still go with the more simplified approach, maybe with a Xano or other package tools that do these things for you?
It wouldn't have got built if it wasn't a time competition. It was a good excuse to tell my wife I've got to go and do this.
Nice.
So definitely helpful to have that time boxing to say, like, look, I have to have it done. I was working until 5 minutes to midnight on the deadline to kind of get the submission done. But back to your question, I think going forward, I kind of knew S3 was the more enterprise kind of scalable, cheaper, cost-effective option. So I think either way, I'd probably build it with something like this. But again, I don't have enough of the knowledge to say, I think this is probably the way I would do it anyway. But I think the reverse is true, that if I was doing a competition in a short amount of time, I would use more simpler solutions that have kind of that abstract away the complexity of setting up gateways and security and cores and things like that.
Totally clear. Great answer.
Yeah, that is one thing as well with, any sort of time competition, that it forces you to make that decision and not dwell on it. Joe, continue.
I'd love to bring up a comment in the chat, a question for you, William. This is from Glenn Eastland. I'd love to know the split for Wized and Memberstack. Where do they sit in the application? So how are both of these products used in your stack in this application? What are they doing here?
Yeah, good point. We haven't really talked about them. So Memberstack, I spent 90% of the time not, or maybe 95% of the time not doing anything in Memberstack. It was so seamless to add in
Good.
the sign up component. Yeah, you got worried there for a bit, didn't you, Julie? But yeah, it was just so easy to do that. I like add a modal, add a component, and then with the Wized integration now to be able to do those requests to get the member ID. I couldn't believe like that part. I didn't even need ChatGPT for that part. That was simple enough to work out myself. So the Memberstack is so. And the interesting about my app, and I talked about the onboarding, I didn't want people to have to sign up, etc., to see it. So hopefully people have gone to abwize.com and tried it out and shared their URL previews. But Memberstack only comes into play just before they launch. So no one can set a project to live because I don't want people using it, anyone who I don't know about, etc., who isn't a member. But it is completely free right now. There is going to be more plans, and we can talk about that later, in different functionality coming. But in terms of Wiz, that's everything. I built those static pages, and then obviously they're static until Wiz came through. So I use Wiz on each of those pages. So on load, certain things happen. When you click the submission on the front page, it sets variables like creates a project ID. So each time you go through this flow, everyone has a unique project ID. That's what you used kind of in the front end JavaScript to reference that project and understand and get the configuration for that project. It's doing a bunch of things like as things are loading, while the request is loading, it's showing the loaders. I've also used Wiz for polling using tools. The backend logic that I'm doing gets a little complicated and can take time. So I'm obviously getting a screenshot. I'm reading the website. So there's a whole service that is reading the website, passing that website, tagging each element on the page, sending it to ChatGPT. That takes time. And I found out the hard way that if it takes longer than 30 seconds, it doesn't ever come back. So things like that. And so implementing polling. So sending that request and then polling to check. That's all happening in Wiz. So checking that when a response is available, when it comes back, using Wiz to populate the fields, hide loaders, and manage where people are in the process so that when you refresh the last page, you should still see that screenshot. I didn't want expensive kind of operations to go and take screenshots every time on a refresh. So Wiz is doing kind of the heavy lifting on the front end to make it all connect together.
Awesome. And something that I think I want to put some attention on is the fact that you are using, a lot of people look and say, okay, traditional development or low-code development with Wiz, with Memberstack. But what a lot of people don't think about is the fact that all of the magic, let's say, what makes ABWize so amazing is happening using these enterprise tools that, whether you're you trying to build this in 2 weeks or you're a VC-backed startup, you're using the same tools to build what actually makes that product, come to life. But you're able to make it an actual usable product that much faster with these tools. Like, let me ask you, I know, like you were saying, you studied computer science and you've been, involved in code for quite a while. How long do you think this would have taken if you didn't have Webflow, didn't have Memberstack, didn't have Wiz, just straight up traditional?
Ooh, that's a good question. I'd say closer to a couple of months with my skill set at a minimum. Because a lot of the back-end logic it's going to take the same amount of time. But like building that front end, the design, and like being able to drop in components and see what I'm building in Webflow, and then just use that same going straight from Webflow and then just adding the logic in Wiz. Huge time saver. So it's hard to even think about how I would go about this. I'd have to go completely back to the drawing board in terms of how I would build that whole front end and the logic to call the APIs.
Yeah, it would be a different process. And something that I talked about on the last stream that I want to also mention on this one is just to understand exactly that, the difference between 2 weeks and a couple months, because it's still a very common thing that people kind of talk about with any of these tools. And along with that, I can relate it to ABWize as a product, is saying, well, if you go the traditional route, it's either cheaper or it's free, which, all right, that's the case. But luckily, because he took part in the competition, William got both Wized and Memberstack for free for the next year. But if he didn't and he was paying for it, it would have been, it wouldn't have even been this, but I'm just going to say $100 a month. So some people might look at that and say, $100, oh, well, I can do it for free. Would you sacrifice, let's say, 2.5 months to save $100? Or after that time, let's say $300? I personally wouldn't. And it's the same thing with, ABWize is free right now, which is awesome. But when it's not free, whatever that price may be, I can tell you firsthand, William can tell you firsthand, I'm sure Joe can tell you firsthand, and you might know it yourself. A/B testing is not something easy and fast. It takes time to set up and it takes time to manage. So once that pricing does come out for ABWize, you need to keep in mind not only the cost of the money that you're spending, but the cost of time that you would have to spend if you're not using it. That applies to Webflow, Memberstack, Wized, ABWize, and all of the other products that we've been talking about. So other than that, what I would love to hear, and what I'm really excited about, is what is next for ABWize? Because right now you have a working product that does the job, which is absolutely amazing, but you can see a lot of parts of it are just so filled with potential. Like, I got really excited looking at that new bit that shows the different stats, and how you mentioned you want to make it, I guess, help people understand what to do about those things. So from your point of view, what are the kind of both immediate next steps for ABWize and also some really cool things that may come in the future that people may want to know?
Yeah, so there is pricing on the main page. It's not the pro plan is not available yet, but it's going to be potentially $29 a month is the current price I have it set at. But that's going to include a lot more features, which I'll talk about in a second. But anyone who signs up on the free plan and launches a test with some significant, or at least not 1 or 2 page views a day, they're going to get a free year of the pro plan when it launches in the next few weeks. So if you sign up, launch a test, and I see stats coming in, then you'll not only have access to priority support through me, because I can't build this without feedback. I know what I would want in the product, and that's kind of all been product led by me, but I would love to build it for the audience who's actually using it. So sign up, abwize.com, go and use the free plan, costs you $0, and then you'll get over $300 in value once you get a full year of the pro plan. But going back to the features, there's so much potential now that the Finsweet team have a lot of kind of front-end JavaScript, and I know you've built one, Julian, but like once you have that script on the user's page with user's permission, you can do a lot of things. So this script is configurable for each user. So each project or website has different configurations. So not only do I have the magic of Wized and Webflow and Memberstack to be able to configure things, then the front end on their website to be able to make changes and measure. So that opens up a lot of possibilities. So I'm considering like this first functionality that I've just showed is really just optimizing hero copy. But that's just the beginning. Hero copy is maybe the most important spot because people are only spending a few milliseconds and not scrolling down. So you want to capture their attention there first. And I didn't intentionally start this way, but I think it works out that that's probably the most important part to start when optimizing your website. But then there's so many other things like I understand, or the tool can understand the colors on the website, can understand the content on the website. So it can then start to suggest other playbooks that will be helpful. Let's say generating a pop-up on exit intent to capture an email. So if the tool recognizes that you're a B2B service, or you are a SaaS app or something like that, it could easily implement, like on mouse leaves the page, pop up a modal, and the modal can be built by the AI in the design and colors of your website. So a couple of clicks and you have kind of a pop-up in your style, which you can modify to be able to do things. So there'll be a number of different playbooks available in the Pro plan, and eventually plans so you can use it as an agency for your clients. So you might run it on one of your clients' websites, start to look at the traffic, and be able to have it suggest different playbooks to improve conversions and engagement on that page. So things like the pop-ups, like the hero text, and eventually, I mean, we can all generate images or alternate images with AI. So there's no reason why there can't be A/B testing of images included. It's kind of all the same building blocks. We're just swapping out the AI to different images. And then a really simple one, CTAs, colors, text, and different things like that, and as well as suggesting things that maybe the AI, the JavaScript won't do for you, but like suggesting added number of users or trusted by or different content that might be missing for like a high performing landing page. And then one more thing, it's nice that it can generate copy for you, but I'm sure when you guys think of a good website or good website copy, you have other websites in mind. So instead of just understanding your website, all the kind of building blocks are there again to scan a different website and apply that kind of brand voice and style and copy to your own website. So you can try on different kinds of websites on your own and see what it looks like, and A/B test them as well.
That is crazy. So we're talking not only A/B testing in the way that I guess most people are accustomed to, which is just changing out copy on the website, but just full on site optimizations, and not only suggestions, but implementations like what you're saying with the pop-up. That is awesome. I am really excited for that. And another thing I want to shout out is that answer that you gave about what's next for the product before you got into those features that are on your mind is, one, you let everyone know that now they have a time to get in early and get a year free. And from that, they can help you with feedback. And from that, you can build a product that is good for the people who it actually matters for, your users. And that leads me to believe that this cannot possibly fail. That is the best way that you can build a product. That is awesome. And not only is that great for you who are going to build a successful product, but also for the users of ABWize, because they're going to be using a product with a team, I'll say team behind it, even though it's just you for now, who wants nothing more than to listen to your suggestions and improve the product based on them. That is awesome. I have loved every second of this. Besides, your time constraints, because I know you're a busy guy, you work, you have a family. That is quite literally my only doubt when it comes to ABWize being successful. Because as an individual, as a maker, you are exceptional. The product is amazing. I like everything that you said you're going to do in the future. Obviously, since you won, that means you have support from both of our teams in order to keep making it a better and better product. So I'm really looking forward to working with you on that. And Joe, what do you think after all this?
Well, I love your roadmap. I'll start with that. Great roadmap features. I mean, testing brand voice, that is, clients would go nuts for that. If I could use that in sales pitches and say, hey, as part of our process, after lunch, we're gonna test different brand voices. Huge sell, easy. So I love it. I think you're on the right track. I think this initial product is a great product, and you're just going to make it better. So, like Julian said, you have our full support, right? You won because all of our judges agreed with it, and you just had the most powerful product at the end of it. So, yeah, I'm 100% impressed, William. You did a great job here and explaining it very, very well. I have to say, I'm I'm excited for what comes next, the actual next step here. So, I guess to the audience, what should the audience's next step be for you? What you said that you have that discount going on, but how would you like the audience to react to this?
Yeah, just try it out, even if you don't get all the way through and launch it on your site. But if you do launch it on your site, I'm giving you over $300 of kind of a year's access to this. So it's costing you nothing. You can't lose. The worst case is you just don't use it, or you turn it off and you don't like what it does. But I I'm very concerned, like when I built this, with the speed and kind of security of, you don't want to just put any old JavaScript on your site. I understand that, and I've worked at large enterprises building this kind of JavaScript. So, but if you want to see, kind of walk through exactly how it works and what it's doing on your site, I'm happy to do that as well. But the best thing to do for me is try it out. You get to A/B test for free. And there's a lot of kind of caveats to A/B testing. You need volume, so it's not a whole. You're not going to learn a whole lot, but you'll have fun trying it out. You get to try different, see what looks good on your site. But please try it out, and then you'll get access to a year's plan. And as you heard, some of those features in the roadmap coming. And like I said, I'm building it for the users, not for me. I started for me, but if there is going to be other things that I know I want, like integrations with other analytics tools, rather than relying on the built-in analytics that I've built. So think like an Amplitude or other tools that you might commonly use that have front-end libraries that I can send the data to, so you can analyze A/B tests in your own suite of tools as well. So please try it out, and then I will be adding a way for you to provide feedback in the app as well.
Love it. And Sylvan is going to act on that. Sylvan says he's going to sign up. Love this stream. I love this stream too. If you loved it, please give a thumbs up here if you like this type of content. Subscribe to our channel. We are at Wized. We are making a big push to highlight our users, right? To do things like this, to show William as a creator and to show the great thing that he has created here. So we want to do this for more people. We want to advertise more users. And I know Memberstack thinks exactly the same way here. We've talked about this before. And that's why we're going to continue working together. But yeah, we want everybody to get involved here. So if we hear after this stream, William says, hey, I had a bunch of signups, a bunch of people reached out about the stream, that's a huge win for us. Third place, second place, the last 2 weeks of streams here, we got these kind of messages. People have reached out after the stream. We want this exactly to happen here, and you can play a part in it. So if you're interested in this, stay along with it. And yeah, I have a lot of. I think this is going to get to the next level. So better to get in earlier than later. Julian, what else do we have here on the stream? Or are we ready to wrap up here?
Agreed. Well, I think everything was absolutely amazing. Just one thing that I do want to shout out for anyone watching this, and also for you, William, is next year we will, as we mentioned, be doing the same competition again, possibly with some exciting tweaks. So stay tuned for that. And what I can tell you is that it will be in June 2025. We currently have the dates June 2nd to June 18th. So feel free to put those in your calendars. That's what it should be. That being said, it may change slightly, but it will still be in June. So mark those dates down. That is when the next competition is going to be. If you're anything like William, then, maybe plan having your children a little bit after that competition. But, that's when it's going to be. Everybody, mark your calendars. This competition as a whole, I guess this is the final stream of the competition. And I am so glad with how the competition went. It did a perfect job of explaining exactly what both Memberstack and Wized wanted. Along with that, the amount of amazing products that are being launched from this is exceptional. I am so glad that we got to hear all of these stories, especially William's. I mean, if there was a TV show or a genre of television for us low-code product building nerds, this would make the cut 100%. And I'm just super happy with all of this. Thank you to everybody who participated, and I'm really excited to see you again next year.
Thanks for putting on the competition. It was a great motivator to get something out the door, even with kind of all the daily pressures of life going on. And the team's been amazing. So thank you very much.
Thank you as well.
Thank you so much. Thank you to everybody watching. Thank you to Julian. Thank you to Memberstack. Thank you to William. Thank you to everybody who played part in this competition. This is the official wrap up of the 2024 Memberstack Wized joint campaign competition. We'll be back next year. We'll definitely have some more campaigns and cool things that we do together. We're going to be growing the Memberstack integration inside the Wiz configurator. This is not stopping here. But thank you for being part of this. Have a great rest of the day. And thank you for being users.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good day.
Arr.